Theresa. My friend, I am so tickled to have you here on the Wishbeads podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
I am tickled pink to be here too. So Alexa, any excuse to hang with you, I'm saying yes to that.
Absolutely. That's one of those full body yeses. We have a mutual admiration society for each other. It is true. But I want to take people back. For those of you who have never met Theresa Reed, AKA the Tarot Lady, she is awesome. I've just told you about her in my introduction, but I want to take you back to where Theresa and I actually met. And that was at a wonderful retreat in Hawaii, led by my dear friend, Alexandra Franzen, who is a brilliant writer, a brilliant human, reminding the world to unplug their devices and plug into life and their dreams and their message. And so going way back to, oh my gosh, January 2020, little bright-eyed and bushy-tailed retreat goers, no idea what was coming down the pipeline for us a few months earlier. I met Theresa. And every morning, Theresa, you would wake up so early and do your Instagram lives. Can you tell people a little bit about what that is all about?
Absolutely. First of all, I will tell people who are listening, I do not like hot weather. I don't like anything tropical. I never want to be anywhere where it's sunny. And so I don't know what, but for some reason, I'm like, I'm going to go to Hawaii. We're going. I told my husband, we're going to Hawaii. I love Alex Franzen. We'll go and we're going to just do this. And the funny thing is, the entire time I was there, it rained. So I think I brought the gloom with me. I just want to say that. And it was so much fun to meet you and the other participants of this retreat. And I'm not a person who unplugs very easily. That is something that is very difficult for me. And in fact, every morning I still got up and did my Instagram lives. And so for people who don't know what an Instagram live is, that's basically like a little broadcast that you do on Instagram, where you're talking to an audience. You might be interviewing somebody. But what I do is every morning I get up and I talk about what's happening in the astrology for the day. And I also pull cards for every sign of the zodiac. So it's kind of like a way to give people some guidance, some inspiration. I have just an approach to tarot and astrology that's more about not this is your future, but it's more like, hey, this is what's happening and let's make this work. And so I do that every single morning. I've been doing that now for a few years. And, I get letters all the time from people who say it just helps them to move through the day, to know what's going on, and to say, okay, I know what's happening here. I'm covered. I know when to show up and when to step back. And that is all about living in the cosmos and living with alignment so that we can have our best lives no matter what's happening in the world or our worlds or the heavenly bodies.
Theresa, I mean, I really love that. And of course, I watch you all the time. And one thing that I felt certainly in your presence, and then ever since then, just watching you online, is that you are such a passionate teacher and a deeply curious person. And not only as a passionate teacher, but really a passionate learner as well. And so this zest for learning and information and life, and combined with your support of people, you're such a generous human being that actually being in your orbit, learning from you has enriched my life so much. And on top of that, it has brought so many new wonderful people into my world. I mean, every time, when I started showing up on your lives, you were also like such a generous promoter of Wishbeads and your genuine enthusiasm for my company and my work that I ended up getting all these new wonderful followers and friends, and so appreciative. But today I want to talk about how important it is, that energy of learning, that energy of curiosity and connection, when you are looking to expand your world. So how does that work, particularly through the lens of astrology and tarot, and that when you have your goals, how can you learn how to use the energy of the cosmos to actually help fuel your journey towards making your wishes happen?
Well, the first thing I want to talk about is learning. I do love to learn. I'm a nosy person. I like to say, I want to know about everything that's happening in the world. I'm always studying something. It might be learning how to cook. I went through a whole series where I wrote about tarot and connected it to food. And so I had to study things like, food safety and all kinds of like weird, crazy things. And I learned how to make a souffle, all in the name of I want to learn something about tarot. I want to deepen my relationship with it. And I love food and I want to connect these two. It was such an amazing experience. And I had so much fun doing it. And I'm always finding something new to absorb. And so I'm always looking for that. I don't think you should ever stop learning. I come across people sometimes who think they're done learning, that maybe they've done tarot or astrology or whatever for years and they're done. You never stop learning, ever, ever, ever. And the more you learn, the more you grow. And the more you grow, the more that you can expand your world and include more people. So I don't know. I kind of like look at it as learning is a way to not just enhance my mind, but to broaden my world and to welcome more people into it. If you're not learning, you're closing yourself off. You're
Yeah.
closing yourself off. And who wants that? I never want to feel closed off. I always want to feel like I am enriching my life experience and bettering myself as a human being. And again, you don't do that by thinking, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
And that is part of manifesting. When you are learning and growing, what you're going to find also is that you are opening up to other experiences. And the more you're opening up, the more knowledge you're gathering, the more likely you're also really fine-tuning your mind so that you can bring the things into your life that you want. You don't bring things into your life that you want by sitting around and just hoping it shows up. You have to take action. You have to learn what is work for me. And also the things you want change over time based on what you're learning and how you're growing. So, I mean, we could go off on many different tangents on this topic.
Yeah, and well, there's another layer here, and I want to just highlight the fact that I've also found you to be enormously humble. You have accomplished so much in your career and continue to produce at record speed new books and courses and connections through your Patreon account, and yet you have this beautiful humility, and I think that humility comes from this idea that it's not like you know everything, but you're always learning with this curiosity. And then how would you, I mean, I also love this idea, and I hadn't heard yet about the connection between tarot and cooking. That's very cool. But using what you genuinely love, like where the energy is naturally flowing, how do you use that as a tool to guide you towards the next action, towards the next class? So I think it can be overwhelming when you step back and say, oh, there's so much I don't know. And yet, how do you use your own desire to guide that process of learning?
Well, first of all, I'm very plugged in to what I want to know. I'm very, very plugged in. I never think, well, gee, I don't know what I want to learn. I'm always pretty specific about the things I love. I'm specific about my passions, my desires, the things that get me excited. And when you're really specific, eventually you're going to find all the different channels and different directions and rabbit holes that you could go down those different things that you're really into. So for example, I've been studying astrology since I've been 15. And my astrology path has taken me into so many weird places. Right now I signed up for a class on fixed stars. And so I thought, if I'm going to learn these fixed stars, I better learn some astronomy so I know where the stars are in the sky. So now I've downloaded this app, Sky Guide, and I got a book called Urban Astronomy. So on the side, I'm going to be figuring out where these things are in the skies to enhance what I'm learning in the class I'm taking. You see how that rabbit hole took me into a different place?
Totally.
Another thing that I'm taking a class on is magical astrology. What is magical astrology? Well, I've also been interested in magic since I've been a very young person. And I remember being a kid reading all those witchy things back in the day. And so I got interested in this magical astrology because I signed up for an astrology conference and somebody was teaching. I thought, yeah, I'll see what the heck that is. I know something about magical astrology. This was a very different, again, another deep rabbit hole. And suddenly I've become obsessed. So I'm reading books that I would have never read in a million years because I would look at them in the metaphysical store and say, oh, this looks boring. But now I'm like, well, wait a minute. There's something here I need to know. And it's the same with tarot, going to conferences or whatnot. It is so interesting because I'm passionate about it. Eventually something's going to take me in a direction. And so a lot of it's intuitive, but also being clear, passionate. I'll go back to cooking. I'm very passionate about food. I love food. I love to eat. I wish I didn't love to eat so much. I love to eat. And when I was a child, I would read cookbooks. I
Wow.
would read cookbooks. I still have 200 cookbooks here. I have some of my mother's old cookbooks. I would read them. I would fantasize about all the things I was going to cook once I got in control of that stove. And, there were so many things that when I became an adult, I started cooking all those things I fantasized about when I was a child. I'm like, I'm going to make this. I'm going to make that. Just from being clear. I love food, I love cooking. Let me explore these books.
I
And
love
I cook
that.
all the time.
I
All the
love that. I wish I lived down the street from you because I do not like to cook, and I
You
would
would eat,
definitely
you would
come
eat
over.
well. You would eat so well if you lived down the street.
I
I
know.
went on this whole thing. This is again how we get curious. I saw a thing about bacon chocolate chip cookies. I'm like, what? I'm like, I got to find out about this. And so my girlfriend and I were in a cookbook store. We saw a cookbook with that recipe, and we're looking at it, and I'm like, these are some really complicated cookies. I said, I'm going to buy this book. I'm going to make these really complicated cookies. And so my poor yoga students, don't cry for them though. Every week they had these really complicated cookies that took me 2 days to make. Like there was one called the Black Sabbath. It's a dark chocolate cookie sandwich with peppermint bark filling, dipped in dark chocolate with homemade peppermint bark garnish. Took 2 days to make this. My students were like, I'm not missing class because I want to get those cookies. But it's because, again, I want to challenge myself. These were hard cookies to make. I want to learn more. I don't want to just be like, well, I've mastered it all. How boring is that if you think you've mastered everything?
So
So
boring.
boring.
So, if for people listening and watching, this idea of number one, going back to, if you don't know, let's say, you are very specific about what you like to learn. But if you don't know, think about what you were into as a kid. I think when
Yes.
we were children, we just didn't have quite the judgment of our likes and dislikes or where we put our time or what other people thought of us. We were just like doing our thing. And without digital devices, because you and I didn't grow up with those, we had more time on our hands. That boredom was what drove you to get curious and to do things.
Boredom is good for you.
Boredom is so good for you. So I love this idea of going back, thinking about what you loved as a child, but
Mhm.
also recognizing that sometimes where we have judgments come in and block us, you talked about this narrow perspective, the idea of just giving yourself a moment to check in with yourself and your intuition to say,
Mhm.
is there some reason why I have a judgment about this, that, or the
Mhm.
other? And maybe I could just be a little curious and see, maybe that does interest
Yes.
me. Because I
And
found out about tarot and
mhm.
astrology and crystals and all kinds of things that have just opened up and expanded my world. And with that comes new people, new connections, and more fun and more fun.
Absolutely. And, again, what you said about going back to childhood, I remember being a kid so vividly. I couldn't wait to be an adult. I hated being a kid because I wanted to run that stove. I wanted to see the world. I didn't like where I was. I loved all that witchy stuff. I was very, very specific from a very early age. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I liked. I knew what I was going to go after, all these different things that I was interested in. And again, then life got in the way and many different things happened, but I still had the core of the things I love and the things I'm passionate about as the driving force that has led me down all these amazing paths.
Yeah. And I have to say, I'm so inspired by young people. I
Oh
think
my God, yes.
yeah, I think we're in a time that obviously has its challenges pretty much on every front.
Mhm.
And I think that that's the deal with being on the planet, right? We can look back on many different eras and people thought this is the end of the world and this is terrible. And yet, I feel like it's that energy of youth and the excitement and the
Mhm.
twinkle in their eye and their creativity to help us navigate these times, to actually inspire us to keep learning and growing and finding new breakthroughs. So,
Yes.
so tell me, because I knew we would transition to this, and I think now might be the great time, is that you have put out so many different books
Mhm.
on so many different topics, but you have a new project that is
Mhm.
launching this month. And so can you tell us about it? Because I think it's a wonderful, amazing tool for young people.
Yes, it's called Tarot for Kids. It's a tarot deck specifically for children from ages 8 to 14 or the young at heart. And Kelly Whitman is the amazing artist behind this deck. So, it's really funny. I put out a tarot coloring book with Sounds True a couple of years ago. And a lot of kids got into that book, which was interesting. Like parents would buy it and their kid would like take the book, they'd snatch the book. And so I would get oftentimes people sending me pictures of their kids getting into it. So kids are into stuff like that. They're into, again, witchy stuff. I was into that witchy stuff when I was a kid. And I found that really interesting that a lot of children ended up like, kind of like hijacking the coloring book because I thought, well, that's interesting, kids getting into tarot. But again, I was into it. And so Sounds True approached me again and said, hey, what do you think about a tarot deck for kids? And I'm like, yes, of course. I would have loved something like this when I was a child. I would have went bonkers over a tarot deck for kids. I mean, most of the tarot stuff back when I was really young, or even like anything that was witchy, was really old and very hard to understand.
Yeah.
But I think that kids nowadays, we could say maybe it's the internet, they're exposed to things like astrology and tarot and crystals and all these things they want to know. So Sounds True came up with the concept. They paired me up with Kelly Whitman and boom, the deck is created and the deck is kid friendly. The one thing is though, that I was really adamant about is we're not dumbing down the deck though, because children are smart. For example, I included reversals. And a lot of adults don't want to read reversals because they're like, oh, they're too hard. And I'm like, no, they're not hard. Mm-mm. Or they don't think they're necessary. And, maybe they're not necessary. But I think children are very smart. I learned tarot when I was 15. So the deck is not dumbed down. We include reversals. There's advice in there on how to do readings so that kids actually learn how to do a reading. And we stay true to the formula of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, a traditional deck, 78 cards. The only thing is we changed a couple things up to make it more kid friendly. So for example, the lovers, we turned that into the best friends because at that age between 8 and 14, instead of a romantic relationship, most likely your relationships are going to be with your best friends, which is still love. And we took the devil, we turned it into the bully. And by the way,
perfect.
A certain goat might be making an appearance in the bully card.
Nice.
And so, we changed a couple of things just to make it more friendly, but it's still true to the traditional tarot deck. And our goal is to help kids discover tarot as a wonderful tool for decision making, conscious living, helping them to tap into their creativity and their intuition. So it's going to help them.
Well, and I love everything about this, but I also love the idea that there is an awakening to inner knowledge because tarot is not fortune telling. We joke about witchy, but it's not even.
It's not even that. It's
not even that. It's like, it's just another tool to say, okay, this is my energy in a dance with some cards to look and see if I can interpret, meaning step back and look at my life or this moment in time, and then see how I'm going to navigate my choices or my perspective, my point of view. And to me, it just activates your own agency, your agency to say, this is how I'm going to conduct myself during the day. And I love you do this for anybody who is not following Theresa online at the Tarot Lady, you must go to her lives because no matter what the card is, you always, Theresa, have this beautiful way of spinning it to something positive. Meaning if you get a really challenging card or a card that suggests like, what's the one, I'm such a tarot novice, but what's the one that like, you have to look out for someone stealing? That always upsets me.
Oh, the Seven of Swords.
Seven of Swords.
Seven of Swords is also with the fox coming in your hen house. However, a good tarot reader isn't going to just say, well, it looks like you're going to get your purse snatched. Instead, the way it works, it's like, hey, listen, you need to pay attention. Someone might be taking credit for something you're doing. And if you're prepared, now here's how you can deal with that.
Yeah.
And for children, the beautiful thing is I tarot as a tool for conscious living, for being awake at the wheel. And kids can learn early on with things like tarot to be conscious of what's happening around them and how they're acting and reacting to things.
Yes.
It helps them to be introspective and to really be thoughtful about the decisions they're making and how they're showing up in situations. And that is the big key to a magical life and to manifest the things you want. It is about being conscious. Again, when I think back to childhood, I was very conscious of my desires early on. I knew what I wanted. I still remember being that little girl and being very awake, very much attentive to a lot of things that other people missed.
Yeah.
And tarot can help kids to do that. But adults, it's never too late for us to start doing the same thing too. Your life, you can turn it around. You can change things. You can manifest the goals and the things you want. And it all starts by really bringing awareness into your thoughts, your deeds, your actions, how you're reacting with other people, how you're treating other people, how you're allowing people to treat you.
Yeah.
The more awake you are, the more aware you are, the more you're moving towards the things you want the most.
Absolutely. And I love this idea that you can actually combine the magic of wish beads and the magic of
Yes.
tarot, and use them together, because it really is about intention. It's about paying attention. It's about intention and paying attention. And it takes a little bit of a leap. And I love the
Yes.
spirit of a youthful, beautiful, inclusive, gorgeous deck, to even guide not just young people, but really when you say like for the young at heart, this
Yes.
idea that you can, just to be an adult doesn't mean that you have to be living with the perspective of harshness and reality.
Right.
Actually, I think we could all invite a little softness, a little innocence, a little twinkle, a little magic into our lives, and then use that to just sort of in a very sweet way inspire us throughout the day. So I literally cannot wait to get my hands on this deck. I truly can't.
Thank you. And we need more play.
We
We
sure
need
do.
more play. We're too serious. This is one of the reasons why I don't watch the news too much. It gets me into the mind frame then where I'm so serious. And it's like, no, you've got to play. You've got to create. That doesn't mean we ignore what's happening in the world or in our worlds. We always want to be aware of everything that's going on, but we can't forget to play. We can't forget that innocence, like you said, that awe and wonder of being alive and being a human and this incarnation right now. And every one of us is the opportunity to be out there doing something to inspire. And one of the things that I'm very inspired by is young people. I love kids. I'm a kid magnet. And I always laugh because I always would say, I'm not a kid person, but I love kids. And they're so smart. They are so thoughtful. And this new generation, I have so much hope for them. They're tolerant. They're outspoken. They are so kind. I just love watching what they're doing.
Yeah. We need that energy. And I also think that kids are also looking to us to mirror that energy as well.
Yes. What are we putting out there in front of our kids?
Yeah.
How I'm showing up in front of them. And by the way, I've done plenty of things in front of my kids that have been awful. and my kids are adults, so they love to talk about, oh, you remember when you did that? I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. When you're not thinking, when you're not being aware, later on you look back and you're like, oh, I should have, but you don't have time for that either. The regret, you want to learn from that too and do better.
Yeah. I was just traveling back from the East Coast a couple days ago, and for whatever reason, well, in our family, we have something that is sacred, and that is the pinky promise. Mm-hmm. When you pinky promise, you are like, it's hardcore pinky promise time.
Yeah.
So we were going to the airport, and it was just my husband and my youngest son. And I can't remember what it was, but he was like, you have to pinky promise that no matter what, you are not going to freak out at the airport. Oh, I know, because when we were leaving, we had some issue with our tickets, and that got me all freaked out. It did. So I was like, no problem. Pinky promise, totally not going to freak out. It's all good. I just had the best vacation. We had a great vacation, and I felt rejuvenated, and we had so much play, and we were in nature, and it was all good. So we have to return the rental car, and we pull in, and it's one of those moments where you see the shuttle bus from the rental car center into the terminal, an airport that I had not been into in the daylight. And I looked at a sign to see which terminal we had to go to catch our flight. I said, okay, it's terminal E. And we jump on a bus that was marked, E and something else. And we get off at E. And immediately I realize that it's the international terminal and this is not where we're supposed to be. And we
Oh,
were in Boston, which was a huge airport. And that moment where they all look at me, it's fully my fault, right? And I'm like, well, we're going to have to get creative and figure out how to walk 3 terminals. So we find a cart that's sitting around, we pile our luggage on, we're looking around, and I'm talking, it was far. And it's like, there's no people mover, there's no whatever.
mm,
And we're just looking around. And I thought, I pinky promise, there is no, like, it's my fault. This is not great. And whatever, we walked quickly and we were laughing. And when we finally we checked in and everything, and it was just us going through the security, my son said to me, he's like, you totally didn't freak out. And I just in that moment remembered that the power of play and
mhm,
perspective, it changes
mhm.
everything. And then
Yes.
it was totally my bad. I got it. I owned it. But then I didn't add a whole drama layer on myself, like being pissed off, which would have
Mhm.
upset them. And I thought, man, I could do this in so many areas of my life where I am hard on myself, overly critical. I get uptight. And I tasted that. So I'm really going to hold that perspective with me, hopefully forever.
Yeah, and that's such a teachable moment for your children. You
Yeah.
held the thing is you kept your word. Keeping your word with children is very, very important.
Yes.
And the one thing my kids, I'm very blunt. I always tell the truth. And sometimes the truth isn't pretty, and they didn't like it when it was younger, but as adults, because my kids are adults, they always know that when they come to me, they're going to get the truth. And oftentimes they will come to me for advice because they know they're going to get the truth. It's not something me fiddling around, telling them what
Yeah.
they want to hear. When you keep your word, when you tell the truth with your children, when you are grace under pressure, when you can admit that you screwed up, oh, you can teach your kids so many amazing things. You help them to become good humans. So that lesson that you gave your children was so powerful,
Yeah.
super
Thank you.
powerful.
Yeah, it was really powerful for me too, because I need to pinky promise myself more often.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
I think that this time, Theresa, too, and you know this because you know me pretty well. The last couple of months, I really decided that it was time for me to step back in the day to day, kind of the way that things
Mm,
normally are, and to look at what I was doing. And I really got very clear that the idea of teaching the power of wishing as a
yes.
tangible skill to change lives became the number one goal. So the things that I had been
Yes.
noodling, like the 1 million wish event, and I was like, no, it's time to crack this nut. Like, we have to do this because I believe in it in the same way that you believe in the power of tarot and astrology as like a beautiful gift you can give yourself
Yes.
to discover the world, to be a powerful person of presence in this world. I think it does feel like we're in a new era where there is this new level. I mean, it may not be for everybody, that's okay, but for those people who are ready to understand their own magic, it's kind of a
Hmm.
great time for people like us.
Oh my God, yes. And just hearing how passionate you are as you express that idea, it gets right back to what we talked about at the beginning. When you feel something in your bones, is what I like to say, you are going to be able then to intuit where to go next with it. It's like your
Yeah.
intuition will find the way. But once you are clear on what the goal is that you want, your intuition, your guides, whatever you want to call it, they always will help you to find the way. It begins with that clarity, that passion, that excitement. That's what magic is all about, too. It is about
Yeah.
being passionate about something, passionately wanting something.
Yes. And then what I love too, and also what I learned about you, is that build a community around you of people cheering you on. Because
Yes.
it is one thing to say, okay, this is my goal, intention, wish, or I want to learn this. And then you can feel like you're in a void. But there's
Mhm.
actually so many more people, dear, dear, wonderful people that are around you, that are also looking for that community, the connection, the web of support. and we don't always recognize it because it can come in different ways, like online
Mhm.
friends, or people that you say good morning to just on your lives, and they really do enrich your life in a new way. And then going back to the tarot deck for kids, what I also am excited about is to find some young people in my world and learn it
Mhm.
with them together.
Yes. Oh
Take
my
that.
God, how fun.
How so fun.
Fun.
Because there are some young people that I know, and they're the ones that like super confide in me, like, oh, I'm into tarot, or I'm into crystals,
Mhm.
or I'm super into this. And you get that little, like, where their eyes kind of like get bigger and they have that little twinkle, like, I think that is so cool. So I'm excited. And so much so, I don't want to forget that you and I talked about a
Mhm.
collaboration in celebration of the launch of your new tarot deck. We are doing a special Wishbeads bracelet featuring our rainbow cylinder. It is a perfect size bracelet for that special tween. And then I'm
Mhm.
going to also do a limited edition of a bigger one. So in case an adult wants to get one for themselves. But these beautiful bracelets, let me see if my camera will focus in. Maybe it'll do it. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, we'll post a picture, but it has sort of I would say, like almost like a crystal ball bead.
Mhm.
Um, quite fun. But again, just these are tools that we're putting out into the
Yep.
world, and physical objects that you can explore basically who you are. And
Yes. And they're
and
touchstones to remind you of
yes,
what you want, to remind you of your desires. I wear my wish beads all the time because it's a reminder. I've got my necklace on, I've got one of my bracelets on. They're reminders of what I want.
yep,
They help me to remain present to the goals that I want. So if I'm getting off track, all I
yep.
have to do is I touch that bead and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And by the way, for those new ones that you've created, I have to laugh and tell everybody. So my husband, when he saw the prototype, he was sulking. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, I want one of those really shiny, and his wrists
He
are
wants
small.
one of these.
Yes. Oh
Oh, I'll
my.
totally make him one. I'll make one. So I'll make some for men because I'm sure that there's well, and also for people that have just bigger wrists. So I
Yes.
have all the components, not to worry. I will totally make one for your hubs and anyone else who wants them. We're going to have them in a few different sizes. And Kaylee Whitman. Also, I
Yes.
designed the card that these are going on. Oh, yes. Wait a minute. And I forgot the best part of all. This is going to be a special style under our new Cause collection. And
Mhm.
the amazing Simone Gordon, who is the founder and is known also as, especially on Instagram, as the Black Fairy Godmother. She is someone who, over this past year, we ended up connecting on Instagram, and she and I are. I'm just such a fan of her work, and for those of you who don't know Simone and her work, she basically has created through her foundation a place where people in need can post a specific need, whether it's for emergency rent or supplies or some sort of like wish that they have. And then she connects them with donors. So there's money that are raised for very specific individuals, specifically women of color,
Mhm.
and she makes sure that their wishes come true in very short order. She is a force of nature. She is a single mom to an autistic son. She is also pursuing her nursing degree. She's had some health challenges recently. So for every purchase of the special edition tarot deck for kids bracelet, we are going to be making a donation to the Black Fairy Godmother Foundation to support Simone and her great work. So that's fun.
It's so fun, and she is doing amazing things. What an inspiration!
Yeah.
What an amazing inspiration for all of us. She is doing something to uplift the world, and one person at a time. How
Yeah.
beautiful is that?
It's so incredible. And I think that in this time that has been wrought with so many challenging things, there are also tremendous stories of courage and
Yes.
beauty and bravery. And when we focus on those positive stories, not saying that we're not ever paying attention to anything negative, but when we hold those stories of positivity, it not only is the balm of our own soul, but it does inspire us to keep going, keep dreaming, keep wishing, and supporting other people. It really fills us up. So
Yes.
I really, there's so many gifts. And if you're maybe sitting in a funk, let's say someone listening this or watching wherever you are, just even writing a little list of the gifts that have come in the last year and a half, just little tiny things that will anchor you in that positive energy. And it really is the fuel for keeping your mind healthy, keeping you open. It's a beautiful thing.
And also, it's a reminder of how important community is. And the last, year and a half, we've all been socially isolated, and we've had to figure out new ways of coming together. And communities like our online communities, or people like her, who's out there, the Black Fairy Godmother, doing things in the community to lift people up. It's a reminder how much we need each other and how much we have to be in this together. And when we come together as a community, everybody can have an opportunity for a better life.
Yeah, it's so true. And we're learning the power of community, I think. I think that, we're seeing some very extreme things in all kinds of different capacities, weather, politics, people. But at the end of the day, we have a common humanity and one world. So we are going to have to cultivate compassion for one another, compassion for our planet, compassion for the future, and our own individual responsibility. So for me, I think that, the people that are putting beautiful things out into the world and teaching and positivity like you, I'm just so honored to be connected to you, to consider you a friend and a collaborator. And I'm just happy to support you and your work and getting more people in your world.
Well, the feeling is mutual. I am totally crazy about witch beads. Look at that. I'm going right back to witchy stuff. But witch beads really, first of all, for people who are listening, they work. I mean, I use these things and it is amazing. I mean, again, they remind me to be present with my goals, and I have wish beads for every different goal. And things happen. And you are making things happen for people. You are inspiring people. You are putting positive energy. You're allowing people to feel hopeful and to really start thinking more about their desires and how powerful they are in making those desires become reality. And I love what the causes you're doing. I mean, Alexa, you are such an incredible, warm, beautiful human being, and you are so giving. And I just think what Wishbeads is doing is really good work in the world. So
awesome.
Love what you do.
Thank you. Feeling is mutual. Right back at you. So please let everybody know the best way to find you, and especially find the new tarot deck for kids, because I'm sure that they're going to want to get their hands on that amazing deck.
Well, you can find me at thetarolady.com. That's where all the action happens. And every morning I'm on Instagram as the Tarot Lady, and I'm there doing those free daily forecasts. You can buy Tarot for Kids and any of my other books at any fine bookstore. You can pre-order online. You can ask your local independent books to carry it, which I highly recommend, and your metaphysical shop. So you'll be able to find it everywhere very soon. It drops on September 8th.
Yes, I am so excited. And we will also be putting up a link to get your very special edition Wishbeads Cause bracelet that is aligned perfectly with the deck because we designed it together. And I'm just so happy to have you in my world. And I have no doubt that we'll be doing some more collaborations in the future because we just want to.
We want any excuse to hang out. That's
we truly do. It's fun. When you have your own company, you can call the shots about who you hang out with.
Yes, and you're very good company, by the way.
Oh, totally. I can't wait till we can go on that retreat again. Who knows? We'll make it happen. But thank you, Theresa, so much for taking time out of your busy calendar to be sharing your wisdom on the Wishbeads podcast. And of course, I will see you on your lives every morning. And just congratulations on this launch. It's so exciting.
Thank you, Alexa. And I'm so glad that you are part of it. So thank you.